for the camera. Yeah. I'm hiding.
You good? I don't have a joke that lasts that long. We'll get everyone to sit down. Kalispera. Hello everyone. Welcome. For those that don't know me, I'm Marini Papyrus. I'm the Treasurer of the Greek Community of Melbourne, the President of the Hellenic Medical Society of Australia, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to our building here in the Greek Centre at the Greek Community for this marvellous event, the Community Dialogue. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and acknowledge their elders past, present and emerging. The Greek Community of Melbourne values and respects our cultural, religious and linguistic diversity and acknowledge that there are vulnerable communities within our community who require support. This meeting and our speakers will speak to some of the services that are in place that help people that are vulnerable and need help as they age or even when they're young and they have special needs, or if they have special needs related to their third age. Everyone would agree that the sector is incredibly hardworking, committed, and has had some unprecedented challenges over the last few years. The meeting specifically aims to bring some clarity as to what services Pronya and Frodida Care provide, with the commencement of a couple of talks from their hard-working presidents, Chris Pavlidis and Jill, followed by a Q&A and then a workshop We're also fortunate to have our visitors from Greece. Είναι ιδιαίτερη χαρά και τιμή μας που έχουμε από την Ελλάδα εκπρόσωπους από τα διάφορα σωματεία. I'd like to welcome and introduce to the group Dr. Georgios Patoulis. Dr. Georgios Patoulis is the governor of the Attica region in Greece, Periferiakis Attikis. He's the president of the Athens Medical Association and been holding this post for many years now. And he's the president of the Global Doctors Hippocratic Institute. And it's my pleasure to have him here for a number of reasons. But what you'll be finding out over the next few days is this morning at the University of Melbourne, we signed a special agreement, a letter of intent for collaboration between the University of Melbourne, that's our premier university in Australia on the rankings, the University of Athens, the Kapodistrian Institute, and the University of Patra. And it really is, I think, one of the first collaborations that Melbourne University has chosen to undertake. And we're really pleased that with the help of the Global Doctors Hippocratic Institute, with our Greek Community of Melbourne and the resilience and the strength of Bill Papastergiadis, and of course the Hellenic Medical Society and all their networks within the University of Melbourne, we'll be able to sign this document. So we have 3 universities for the first time here in Melbourne collaborating in pre, post and doctoral studies, and we'll work through that in terms of what they may look like. So I'm really thrilled, and the Global Doctors Hippocratic Institute also brought along a statue, an authentic copy of the bust of Hippocrates, and that was unveiled at the university, and it looked terrific, and it was really nice to see all the people involved in international discussions there to not only witness the signing of the documents, but to congratulate really the community, the Hellenic Medical Society and all the Global Doctors Hippocratic Institute, and really our Hellenic government representatives for all their hard work to get this over the scenes. The other person we have from Greece is Dr. Marios Themistokleos. He's a neurosurgeon, he's hard-hitting, but he's also the General Secretary of the Ministry of Health of the Hellenic Republic. And he was in the past the president, and he still is the president of the Central Health Procurement Authority for Greece. So welcome to Australia. We have Professor Georgios Andonakis, who's the Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, the University of Patra, and he's one of the linchpins to the signing of the agreement. We have Dr. Konstantinos Pandos and his lovely children, who's the Director of Genesis in Greece and also the first Vice President of the Global Doctors Hippocratic Institute. And we have Dr. Antonios Polidoros, who's our Secretary of the Global Doctors Hippocratic Institute and the Ambassador of Hellenic Tourism. And we also have Dr. Dimitris Skleros. I'll mention him because he's a good friend, and he's also a Lefkadian of origin, which makes him extra special because my wife is also Lefkadian. Now, getting back to the program, I'd like to thank our Congress sponsors, our platinum sponsors Aritex and the Platform Alliance, our premier sponsors, the Accountancy Group and Windsor Management, our major sponsors, the Manzas Family Trust, Directed Technologies and Imaging Associates. And I'd like to thank our partner sponsors as well. We have our diamond sponsors being the Commonwealth Bank, our platinum sponsors being Dorovich Pathology, and our gold sponsors being Zaparis Lawyers. And without their help, events like this couldn't take place. So just before we start the meeting, because it's not very often we have the president of the Global Doctors Hippocratic Institute here in Melbourne, and the president of the Athens Medical Association, and the governor of the Attica region, I'd like to ask Dr. Georgios Patoulis to share a few of his thoughts with us and say a few words of welcome. Thank you.
Θα ήθελα να μεταφέρω εγώ από την πατρίδα τους χαιρετισμούς και να μιλήσω στην μητρική σας γλώσσα, τα ελληνικά, και βέβαια να πω ότι είμαι ιδιαίτερα χαρούμενος που βρίσκομαι εδώ στη Μελβούρνη, στην καρδιά του ελληνισμού της Αυστραλίας, επ' αφορμής αυτής της, κατά την προσωπική μου άποψη, σημαντικής προσπάθειας που κάνει και η ελληνική ομογένεια της Μελβούρνης και ο πρόεδρος των Ελλήνων γιατρών της Μελβούρνης, ο κ. Πυρπυρής, και αυτό μας δίνει τη δυνατότητα να βρεθούμε στο τριήμερο συνέδριο, το πρώτο ουσιαστικά συνέδριο του ελληνισμού των Ελλήνων γιατρών ανά τον κόσμο, είτε με φυσική παρουσία είτε με τηλεδιάσκεψη, όπου θα ξεκινήσει αύριο. Βέβαια να πω ότι πριν 5 χρόνια περίπου με τον κύριο Πάντο και με άλλους συνεργάτες, συναδέλφους, είχαμε βρεθεί και είχαμε υποσχεθεί ότι δεν θα ξεχάσουμε και τη φιλοξενία αλλά και την διάθεσή μας να γεφυρώσουμε τον ελληνισμό με τη μητέρα πατρίδα. Ξέρω ότι δεν είναι εύκολη η δυνατότητα των συναντήσεων. Ξέρουμε ότι και με το ενεργειακό αυξήθηκαν και τα εισιτήρια, το συζητούσα και λίγο πριν, αλλά νομίζω ότι η ζεστασιά που έχουμε ο ένας για τον άλλον είναι εκείνο που θα μας ενώνει και θα αντιμετωπίσουμε όποια δυσκολία. Είναι προφανές ότι η δική μου τουλάχιστον παρουσία εδώ σαν Περιφερειάρχης Αττικής, της μεγαλύτερης περιφέρειας της χώρας, με 5,5 εκατομμύρια κατοίκους ή επισκέπτες καθημερινά, αλλά και ως πρόεδρος του Ιατρικού Συλλόγου Αθηνών, του μεγαλύτερου επιστημονικού συλλόγου της χώρας, έχει ως στόχο να δυναμώσουμε μέσα από συγκεκριμένες συνεργασίες και συνυπογραφές μεταξύ των ιατρικών συλλόγων, μεταξύ της κοινότητας, μεταξύ του Πανεπιστημίου που πριν λίγο πραγματοποιήθηκε της Μελβούρνης, και βέβαια με στόχο αυτή η γέφυρα να είναι ισχυρή, δυνατή και να μπορέσει πράγματι να δημιουργήσει την δυνατότητα όχι μόνο της ζεστασιάς, την οποία έτσι κι αλλιώς έχουμε, αλλά και με αναπτυξιακές προοπτικές, είτε εσείς ερχόμενοι στη μητέρα πατρίδα να έχετε τρόπο και δυνατότητα να έχετε τις καλύτερες δυνατές φιλοξενίες, και εμείς εδώ να αναπτύξουμε, κύριε Παπαστεριάδη, είναι μην αφήσει κανείς μια θέση, την καταλαμβάνουν αμέσως. Λοιπόν, και βεβαίως να πω ότι είναι αλήθεια ότι η σχέση την οποία είχαμε δημιουργήσει και με τον Βασίλη από την περασμένη μας επίσκεψη, αγαπητέ Μαρίνη, ήταν τόσο ισχυρή που ήταν και εκείνη μια δύναμη όσον αφορά την προσπάθεια που κάνουμε σήμερα, και νομίζω ότι θα φύγουμε με πιο ισχυρές σχέσεις εμπιστοσύνης μεταξύ μας. Να πω ότι στο ταξίδι αυτό ήρθε κοντά μας ο φίλος μου από τα παλιά και τώρα Γενικός Γραμματέας του Υπουργείου Υγείας, ο Μάριος Θεμιστοκλέους, γιατρός και εκείνος, και η πρόσκληση ήταν προφανώς και αυθόρμητη και άμεση απάντηση, και τον ευχαριστώ που ήρθε και εκείνος κοντά μας σε αυτή την οικογενειακή μας ομαδική προσπάθεια. Προφανώς ο αδελφός και φίλος και πολύ σημαντικός γιατρός, ο Κώστας ο Πάντος, όπου είναι ένας παγκόσμιος γιατρός, αλλά χαρά μας είναι που βρίσκεται το κέντρο του στην Ελλάδα, στην Αθήνα. Βεβαίως θα πω ότι και ο Αντώνης Πολυδόρου μαζί με τον κύριο Πάντο αποτελούν το Προεδρείο του Παγκόσμιου Ιπποκράτου Ινστιτούτου Γιατρών, που στόχο έχει να ενώσει τους απανταχού γιατρούς Έλληνες πρώτης και δεύτερης γενιάς σε μια κοινή οικογενειακή προσπάθεια ενδυνάμωσης των γιατρών του ελληνισμού. Και φυσικά, όπως πολύ σωστά είπε ο Μαρίνης, ο πρόεδρος της Ιατρικής Σχολής της Πάτρας, ο κύριος Αντωνάκης, αλλά και ο κύριος Κληρός, και η κυρία Βικτωρία Πολυδόρου, συνάδελφος γιατρός, και βέβαια μια ομάδα, ομάδα που μας ακολουθεί για να καταγράψει αυτήν την συνάντησή μας, μεταξύ αυτών η Χαρά η Λόκα, συνεργάτη μου και στην περιφέρεια, και η κυρία Κιλού, οι οποίοι, ξέρετε, είναι σκληρό πράγμα να είναι κανείς συνεργάτης σε έναν περιφερειάρχη, ο οποίος κοιμάται 4 ώρες το 24ωρο και έχει πολλές δραστηριότητες. Αλλά βεβαίως και το δημοσιογραφικό μας επιτελείο, το οποίο στόχο έχει να μεταλαμπαδεύσει αυτή μας την συνάντηση, αυτές τις συνεργασίες στη μητέρα πατρίδα και στην κοινή γνώμη της Ελλάδος. Δεν θα ήθελα να καθυστερήσω τις εξελίξεις περαιτέρω, έτσι κι αλλιώς, αγαπητέ Μαρίνη, θα έρθουμε κατόπιν μετά τις 3 για να κάνουμε μία διάλεξη σχετικά με τον τουρισμό και με τα ζητήματα του ιατρικού τουρισμού, αλλά και γενικότερα της φιλοξενίας της Αττικής μας, και περισσότερο θα ήθελα επ' αφορμής αυτής της συνάντησης κοινότητας να ευχαριστήσουμε για τη φιλοξενία, για την θερμή ανταπόκριση που βρήκαμε και από τον πρόεδρο της κοινότητας, τον κύριο Παπαστεριάδη, και σε ένα προσωπικά, αλλά και πιθανολογώ όλα τα μέλη του Διοικητικού σας Συμβουλίου. Αυτή την θέρμη θα την κρατήσουμε στη σκέψη μας και θα την ανταποδώσουμε με τον καλύτερο δυνατό τρόπο, είτε μέσα από αυτό που θα μεταλαμπαδεύσουμε, είτε με τη δική σας παρουσία στη μητέρα πατρίδα, την οποία θα θέλαμε το συντομότερο δυνατόν να συμβεί αυτή η επίσκεψη. Με αυτές τις σκέψεις, καλή δύναμη, υγεία. Χαίρομαι ότι περάσαμε την πανδημία, είμαστε όλοι υγιείς, αλλά πάνω απ' όλα χαίρομαι γιατί έχουμε ένα κοινό όραμα. Την ανάπτυξη, την ενότητα και την αγάπη στη μητέρα πατρίδα, την Ελλάδα μας. Σας ευχαριστώ πολύ.
So we'll just probably excuse our guests for a few minutes. They arrived very late last night. They
3 o'clock, Maureen, we can do that. I think we should
press ahead. All right,
Press ahead. They're strong.
we can do that. All right, we can do that.
3 o'clock, we finish. Let's press.
All right, so let's go on to the next part of our program. I'd like to firstly introduce Chris Pavlidis. She's the president of Pronya. Pronya is a peak community welfare service and advocacy organisation. She's an accomplished community leader. She's an experienced advocate for social justice and diversity, and she's held various leadership positions over the last 30 years. She's served 4 terms in public office. Well done, Chris, as an elected local government councillor and mayor. And she has the honour of being the first Greek Australian female mayor. Bravo. She served as Senior Deputy Chairperson at the National Peak Multicultural Organisation, the Federation of Ethnic Communities Council, and she's the immediate past Chairperson of the Victorian Ethnic Community Council. So I think that says a whole raft about the strength, the passion and the commitment of Chris Pavlidis. Welcome to the podium, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Good afternoon. Λίγα λόγια στην ελληνική, γιατί θα με μαλώσει ο κύριος Γιώργης εκεί. Τα είπαμε πιο νωρίς. Θέλω να καλωσορίσω όλους τους επισκέπτες που μας έχουν έρθει από την Ελλάδα, από την πατρίδα, και σας ευχαριστούμε, κύριε Γιώργη, για τα ωραία σας τα λόγια και με τη θερμότητα που μιλήσατε, και όλους σας που σας έχουμε εδώ σήμερα. I'd like to say some words in English. So I too would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri Wurrung people as the traditional custodians and pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and of course any elders we have here with us today, particularly from our Greek Australian community. So my name's Chris Pavlidis, and I do have an update. I'm the former president of Pronya as of last night's AGM, but I'm really pleased to be here with you. Pleased to join this symposium and engage in community dialogue with a room of esteemed experts and community leaders. My congratulations to Professor Marini for this excellent initiative. And thank you, Marini, for the opportunity. It's been a delight to forge this collaboration with you over this year in my capacity as the immediate past chair and president of the organisation Pronia. Just a little bit about myself very quickly. So I do have a social work background and I've engaged in clinical practice over the years. I then moved into community development, building community capacity, as we call it in our jargon. And then building on that, I moved into the political realm at local government level. So elected, as Marini said, as a councillor and then a mayor for about 15 years. That gave me a real opportunity to develop a working understanding of the holistic approach and experience of health. So understanding and experiencing health from a holistic point of view, socio-economic and environmental, as well as clinical health. And that's, I guess, what our esteemed doctors are familiar in practicing. In the work that I've always done and continue to do, I think it's critical that we have that lens, that generic lens of health, the holistic perspective of a person's well-being and where they're at and how we then work with them. Also, the critical interface between health and a person's well-being. I want to talk a little bit about the context that I'm going to be discussing in the workshops when we break up into workshops lately, and start with the premise that we recognise that here in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, we are part of a mainstream monocultural regime. And what does that mean? Yes, the Greek migrants have been here for many, many years. We are still, however, a minority ethno-specific community. And that's reflected, in my view, on the periphery of policy development, budget allocation, and program initiatives. So in a sense, we've established a lot as the Greek Australian community, and that's to the credit of our foreparents, who came as the first large wave of Greek migrants. I'm the second generation of Greek Australian migrants, and my children the third, and so on. And we've established ourselves really, really well in this country, and it's to the credit of our parents who worked really hard. The other premise is that we value our heritage, our Greek heritage, and its cultural idiosyncratic characteristics. Not all of them, but most of them. Our elders, we have the highest respect for our elders, and hence a lot of the work that we engage in. And I wanted to then focus on Pronia a little bit and talk about Pronia was called the Australian Greek Welfare Society, and this year celebrates very proudly its 50th anniversary. So for 50 years, this organisation, which was incepted by a group of volunteers, who one of them was a doctor, Dr. Spiro Moraitis, all those years ago, they had the progressive foresight to see that that new wave of migrants at that time, 50 years ago, was going to have not just settlement and migration needs and issues, but they were going to have other issues that were going to come along with the establishment of their families. So they planted the seed for the Australian Greek Welfare Society, which is now called Pronia. And the organisation developed parallel to that peak wave of post-World War II migration. So we've got I believe we have a little bit of a PowerPoint presentation. Just to give you a quick overview, one of the comments I'll make is the organisation provides cradle, as I call it, so young children. There's the preschool centre called Alpha over in Richmond, and I think that's been going for about 30 years, is that right? We've got the CEO to 45 years, yes. And the whole purpose of Alpha and the discussion we had earlier with the esteemed Mr. Patoulis there, was that it's critical that we maintain our language as much as we can, our Greek language, and we try to do that because in my view that defines our identity to a large degree. So that's one of the purposes of this program that comes under the Pronia's mandate, Alpha Childcare Centre, and it has children that are preschool age, and it teaches them preschool activities but in the Greek language predominantly. I'll just quickly look at these notes here. There's a big function of the organisation, a critical function is aged care. So as I said, we have a serious respect for our elders in our Greek Australian community and Greek community generally, and we recognise that that first wave of migrants is now at a critical age of their stage of life. They're older people, and Pronia has a critical role there in providing community care packages, as we call them, so people can remain in their homes for as long as they can. So if they're able to be at home with their families, that's the preferred option. Sometimes people suffer illnesses such as dementia, and they lose their mobility, as you may all be aware of, and they are requiring the assistance of organisations like Bronya, and then later you'll hear about Frondiza. So we also provide a lot of counselling services to families, or Bronya provides a lot of counselling services to families. How am I going for time, Marini? Yes? Okay. Yes, like that. That's the Greek version. I'm going to continue a little bit more, and then I'm going to hold off and get into the detail when we do break up into the workshops, and people can choose which area of interest you have and you want to unpack a lot more. So I might do that if that's okay. We have a number of services, or Bronya has a number of services, we call the NDIS, the National Disability Insurance Scheme. That's something that the Australian government undertook several years ago, and Bronya provides critical intervention for people who are living with disabilities, any type of disability. Bronya has a very strong volunteer program. A lot of the work that happens in Melbourne, Victoria is on the back of volunteers, and in fact a lot of the boards that a lot of us sit on, and Bill knows this, and Jill knows this, and I certainly know this, is done on the back of volunteers. So we are all volunteers, and then we rely on a lot of our volunteer energy, if you like, to offer a range of different programs and services. And from Bronya's perspective, a lot of the volunteers go into the people's homes, and they sit with them, and they provide company to them. They provide respite to the carers of the people who are caring for these older people. That's a very important program. Advocacy, there's a lot of advocacy that happens to the government on behalf of the Greek Australian population, whether it's the elderly, whether it's the youth, whether it's families in crisis. Because as I said, we have to remember we're operating within a monocultural regime, and we are. It's still the Anglo system. If you look at our political system here, it's the Westminster system of England. So we are, the Greek community is one of the larger, most successful established communities. There's no doubt about that. But often we're struggling for funds to offer initiatives, to fund programs, to offer the services that the community needs in a critical way. So advocacy is very important, and it's very important that we have very good working relations with our political representatives at the state and the federal level. Also, about 10 years ago, I think there was the second wave of Greek migrants who came from Greece, and you'd be aware of that much more intimately maybe than I am. And a lot of those people, I suppose, came with their own set of needs as well. So again, Bronya plays a critical role in the settlement phase of these people, helping them settle, find their feet, find jobs, find accommodation, get their children and their families settled, etc. Family violence, unfortunately, is a very big issue for the community in general, not just the Greek Australian community. And coming out of the pandemic, the COVID pandemic and the crisis that ensued with that, and the lockdowns that we had, you all would have heard of the marvellous lockdowns that Melbourne had. We've all come out a little bit unscathed, and however, a lot of the families struggled because they were vulnerable anyway to start with. And unfortunately, one of the issues that surfaced as a large statistic is family violence. So again, organisations, ethno-specific organisations like Bronya have a critical role to play in providing the support to the individuals and the family unit in dealing with these kind of issues. This year alone, in the past year, Bronya saw about 8,000 people. That's a lot of people. If we think of how it started 50 years ago, 8,000 across all its programmatic areas. So I won't go on more. I think I'll stop there. The counselling, there's groups that are offered, again, to the elderly people, the PAGs as we call them, the planned activity groups. And that's for more frail elderly people who sometimes they get picked up by a bus or a taxi service, and they get taken to this program once a week at the offices of Bronya. And they have guest speakers who speak about dementia. They might speak about wills. They might speak about power of attorney, issues that are very important to our elderly as they get to that last chapter of their lives. We have this year in particular, and I mentioned a little bit earlier, the collaboration with Professor Marini. The community engagement role of Bronya, in my view, has extended significantly this year, and I was really pleased to be a big part of that in forging relations such as these. So I think it's critical that with our Greek community here in Melbourne in particular, while we are so many, and there are so many organisations, and a few of them are represented here today, we need to work in unison a lot more. And Bill's nodding his head. We've had these conversations, and there needs to be a really strong partnership and a really strong collaboration, because one thing I've noticed with a lot of the other work I do, the more established communities like the Greeks, like the Italians in Melbourne, are cast aside a little bit, and a lot more funding and policy development is being developed towards the new and emerging communities, you know, refugee communities and the newer communities that are coming into the country. And I'm not saying that shouldn't happen, but what I am saying is that it shouldn't be done at the expense of the more established communities such as the Greeks. We've got a lot of experience in settling here, whether it's as first generation Greek Australians, second or third, and I think there can be a working together relationship, so the newer communities learn from the Greeks in a way. So I think I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you, and again congratulations to Professor Marini for the opportunity and this initiative. And I hope your stay here over the next 10 days is fruitful for you. Thank you.
That was great. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for that introduction. And you know, at a time, I think Chris brings up some great points. At a time when our community, behind the scenes, has a lot of stress, has a lot of anxiety, has a lot of depression, have community needs that far exceed the community services that are available. Now's the time for a lot of these community organisations not only to work, but for our government officials and the people that are putting together strategy and infrastructure to really commit to what is the most vulnerable part of our community, people in need. Bravo, Chris. And now I'd like to introduce Jill Taylor, who's the President of Frodida. She is a member of the Risk Management and Finance Committee of the Communications Committee, previous Chief Financial Officer at Silvertop Taxi. Good on you. I didn't know that about you, Chris. Bravo. And a partner at Greenfield Fox Hanson. She's a highly experienced executive and non-executive director, a CPA qualified accountant, a business consultant. And I was really impressed with her work when she took on one of the challenges in the community, and she really restructured and redesigned and rethought up, along with the board, the way that Frodida Care can move forward and provide even more support and service to the broader community. Bravo. She's been at Frodida Care as a non-executive director for the previous 9 years. She's been president since December of 2020. And prior to that, she held the position of company secretary for 3 years. She's also previously been a director at the Power Lending Group for 3 years, a chief executive officer at Silvercom, and a director of, we said the Greenfield Fox Hanson. Bravo, welcome, a wealth of experience, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts about the Frodida Care.
Thank you, Marinis. I don't know where you got that. That's very old, but the bio. I didn't give you much because I didn't think it was more about me. But anyway, Kalispera ke kalos ήρθατε. Welcome to everyone here today, particularly our esteemed guests from Greece. We're very happy to have you here with us and hope that you enjoy all your time that you're here, and it's very fruitful. Firstly, I'd like to also welcome the traditional, I'd like to pay respect to the traditional owners of the land which we meet, elders past, present and emerging. I'm very pleased to be here today to introduce Frodida Care and share some of our story with you all and our purpose-driven strategy to deliver a continuum of care. Now, I better just that the next one done? So far. Okay, who are we? Who is Frondida Care? And ours is more specific than I know that, and there will be some overlap, so I'll try to cut that out now, as I hadn't heard you speak there, Chris. So in 1977, leaders of the Greek community in Melbourne, identifying a gap in culturally appropriate care, established a service to care for our elders, especially those with no financial means, for services and supports to be cared for in their third age and remain connected socially. Frondida Care delivers a culturally centred model of care across a continuum from care in situ for those who maintain independence in their home through to residential services. Today, after celebrating 45 years in April, we have 1,500 clients, 500 that we care for in residential services, and around 1,000 that are cared for in their home. We have 5 residences, 4 in Victoria and 1 in New South Wales, and we have 40 independent living units for our financially or socially disadvantaged elderly residents, providing them the freedom to manage their own daily lifestyles in peaceful and safe environments, and that's situated in our St Albans facility. In the year that we've just seen an 80% volume growth of Frondida Care's community services statewide, with more elderly choosing Frondida Care due to its credibility, cultural specific care model and quality care of its service delivery. And I might just expand on that a little bit for our guests, because this is care that we give to those in their home, be it whether they need cleaning services, any domestic services, or even somebody to take them for their shopping, or just for anything that's sort of required for them to live well in their home and be able to stay in their home longer before they go into care. And I'm just digressing off this for a moment. Like, we used to, post-pandemic, the age that they come into care is actually older, and it's around like 85, and it used to be longer that they would stay in residential care, but that's now running at around the 18 months, possibly up to 3 years. So it's quite a brief period of time. We're also supported by 740 staff currently, with healthcare being one of the most affected industries of the labour shortage post-pandemic. We're very fortunate in that, but that has to do with our workforce culture, which I'll get on to later. We have approximately 150 volunteers and a turnover of around $76 million. Under the current CEO, Face Pateri, who's sitting here, who commenced in February 2021, we have moved to embedding a One Frondida philosophy, a culture which drives our success, and it connects all our people, those who care and that we care for, and also all our staff, sharing the same values, like common principles, common purpose, shared values, mutual respect and partnerships. The One Frondida philosophy ensures employees are involved in the decision making and teams collaborate and our people inspire and learn from each other, all designed to deliver an exceptional client experience. Our mission is to support our elders to live their best life, the way they want. Most of our clients, as you know, were born in Greece and came to Australia, and they came to this country and they worked really hard. 1 job, 2 jobs, some worked 3 jobs, and they built this country to where it is today. Contrary to what my husband says, he says that it wasn't just the Greeks, I know, but it was the migrants. They did the jobs that nobody else wanted to do, and this is where we're very privileged to be living and calling this country home. I feel that we owe them for what they have done for us, and that's why it's very important that we have a responsibility to provide the best care that we can for the last years of their life. Okay. Now, we at Frondida are guided by a 10-year strategy framework with 4 pillars and a 1, 3 and 5 horizons and business plans. An exceptional client service is one. We're committed to delivering an integral model of care now and into the future. Sustainable growth, as we know, is very important. Without money, can't do much. We want to maximise the use of our assets and grow the breadth and depth of our community services. So far it's Victoria-wide, but we're looking at perhaps branching out to further states from there. We're focused on a strong employee value proposition that we will see us build on and engaged on a competent workforce. We want to attract the right people. For example, now at the moment we're negotiating our employee our EBA, and we want to look at the same sort of conditions for all our staff and make it all one. So that's the one Frondida. We're trying to negotiate, and this would be with our federal government, because we have a labour agreement with the federal government to bring to Australia Greeks from Greece, because that's one area we used to be able to staff our organisation with just Greek-speaking staff, and of course now, everyone, like there's so many jobs. There's a labour shortage, so we are negotiating at the moment and trying to see if we can expand that labour agreement that we have with Greece to bringing not just personal care workers, but also other occupations. So we need to broaden it, whether it's nurses or even administration, anything that are Greek speaking to come to our land. So we welcome any introductions. Thank you, Bill. No, Bill, because you're the good introducer. I don't know about actors, but anyway, let's not. He's starting in February. Very good to hear. No, we do welcome that. Thank you so much. And also a high-performing organisation. More than improving, we are evolving to meet the growing needs of the ageing community. We will continue to prioritise the fundamentals, including operational excellence, compliance and risk management. Frondida Care is an exemplar bucking all industry trends. We have a 96 to 100% occupancy rate, where the average is around, I think, 85%. So we're really viewed at very highly in the industry. Often there's 100%. It only goes down if we've got, there may be some COVID breakout and we can't fill it at that time. So we are very fortunate, and we also have waiting lists. And that is also due to the support that we have from the Greek community, which we value immensely. We have full reaccreditation at all our facilities, meeting all 8 Australian standards. And I don't know how much you know of this part, particularly our guests here, but there's been major reforms in the aged care industry. The pandemic saw a lot happen, which was very unfortunate, and we now have very strict guidelines and standards, which for us, it hasn't changed all that much, but it's good to see that it's given the priority that it has. Now, the other thing, our elders are at the heart of all we do, and that's what drives our success in implementing our strategy. It's purpose-led and genuinely person-centred, from lifestyle programs which focus on the cultural, spiritual and individual needs of residents. Like we have a chapel at each of our residences. We have a cinema. One of them, our St Albans one, it's like gold class. Haven't had a chance to go yet. We have beauty salons. We've got the all-important cafeneo, where they can play davli and cards, and they can have a chat, a debate or 2 or 3 and argue. We have a library where they can have some peaceful time. And we have clinical care, solid care plans that are co-designed with individuals and their carers. To our Partners in Care program, which supports families to be involved in the planning and care of their loved ones. I don't know what slide I'm on here, but here we go. Okay, we are committed. We are committed to continuous improvement and developing accessible pathways for our clients and their representatives, and our staff to provide feedback, including compliments and complaints. But we introduced this new TelTouch, which is a digital feedback system available in multiple languages, including Greek and English, of course, providing real-time feedback to improve our service delivery and staff experience through identification of trends or issues. In our residences, it's an actual kiosk like this, and it's got an iPad on it. So it's very easy to access, it's easy to spot, and it's very simple to use. In the homes, everyone, like we know that anecdotally we're seeing that most people have an iPad or an iPhone at home. So it's a simple app that they can use, and we get real-time feedback from that. So TelTouch has a high-level reporting capabilities and has already facilitated much greater engagement on our feedback process, allowing us to share positive comments through the organisation and make immediate changes where required to improve our service delivery. Now, our workforce culture, that is of paramount importance to our organisation. Frondida Care is really proud to support the learning and developing opportunities for its staff. We see this as an important step in lifting individual capabilities and investing in the future of our people. We support staff through enterprise-wide focus on policies, procedures, systems, communications, learning and development. And we've introduced CompliLearn, which is, it's a new development platform which is aligned with the 8 Australian standards and also our policies and procedures, and it integrates the staff training and all that together in order for us to have proper governance. We also have the Frondida Care traineeship program. Now this year we had 23 staff that they undertook professional development courses to improve their skills and qualifications. These courses are part of the state government, and again, that's where Chris was saying we're very fortunate to have the support from both the state government and federal government, and this is an initiative, it's under their traineeship framework, which is assists employees to upskill whilst being employed. We also have, which is important, and it was something that was extremely valuable during the pandemic and post-pandemic continues to be so, and that's the Employee Assistance Program, where a confidential counselling service to support the mental health and wellbeing of our staff. We celebrate through Bounty of Care Excellence Awards, and that's those photos here, and these are aligned with our values, and there's 5 of those. So it's the Bounty of Care main award, which is Odissea, who's in that second row there. We're very proud of you because we had 200 nominations for this. So this just goes to show the success of the organisation because, sorry, Bill. That's okay. You can walk out. No, that's fine. That's fine. No problem. Yep. Okay, I'm nearly done. Could have waited, but that's fine. It's okay. It's all right. Anyway, and so we had, to show how successful, we had from our staff about 400 attend this event, that some of the photos from here, and this is on a Friday night without their partners, and coming dressed up like the Academy Awards, but it's something that really just makes our organisation what it is, and like I said, it adds to our beautiful workplace culture. Okay. Now, oh yeah, this is the other. These are the results. If you have a look here, and I'll just run through this one quickly. We did this, you know, the Pulse survey, and we're very proud with our results because you can see, like, just to read out a couple of them, we've got like 97% of our employees enjoy the work they do. That's quite huge for an organisation to get that, and 98% believe the work they do is important, and 97% are proud to work at Frondida Care. And there's some other stats there. So that was very, very positive, and that was just in the last year that we did that. Okay, now to cater for the well-being of our elderly, and that's very important, we've got a lifestyle and leisure program, activities, and every care recipient has their own preferences, skills and physical capabilities. So the activities that form the leisure and lifestyle program are diverse and aim to meet their needs as well as being achievable and enjoyable for those with dementia. The other thing is that Frondida, hang on, I've really mucked this up now. Okay, we have community partnerships, say with Dementia Australia, who help design our facilities to accommodate the latest design. To give you an example, we've just built a $22 million facility at St Albans, which really replaced the older one that was there, and Dementia Australia had a lot to do with the planning of that and making sure that it was purpose-built for the memory support unit to give the residents the best care. And an example of that is in the memory support, there's no doors, it goes all the way around, and it's something that when you have the dementia and Alzheimer's, it works best for them. We also had a very successful, and this here is one of our Greek communities, who we had a very successful end of financial year fundraiser, and here we got part of the donations that we received was $50,000 from one of our Greek communities, and we find this is to, the intention was for a community garden to be created at the outdoor space for planned activity groups. Like Chris was saying earlier, we have the same. We do it from Tuesday to Friday. They come there, and it's a great social environment. So these funds here will go to a garden there. We know they're successful because we have them at each of our facilities also, and it brings much joy and happiness to our residents. We're partnered with Creative Art Therapy to deliver music and art therapy to social support groups, participants, and those in residential services. It's proven that qualified art therapists purposefully incorporate multiple creative modalities tailored to key issues, and the current art therapy sessions are designed to improve our elders' physical, mental and emotional well-being. I think I've gone through most of those specific to Frondida. I just want to say that thank you that we had the opportunity. Thank you, Marinis. I hope that you understood some of what I said. I know it's very different. We do it different from Greece. Should you wish me to come and speak to you over there, I don't have any problem. July, August, July, August, maybe the end of June, September, anytime. I now have a short video that I would like to play just to show you why, with Frondida Care, why we do what we do, and why we all feel so proud to be working there, and with our staff, our CEO, there are other staff members here. When we see this, it just makes it feel all very super special. So if I can just, apparently it's going to play, but
εδώ στην Αυστραλία που ήρθαμε, είχαμε μαύρα μαλλιά και σήμερα είμαστε όλοι γενικά με άσπρα μαλλιά. Κάναμε παιδιά, τα παιδιά μας κάνανε άλλα παιδιά, εμείς ήρθαμε σε μια ηλικία που δεν μπορούμε να κάνουμε τίποτα και η φροντίδα μας κάνει τα πάντα.
Έχουμε την Τζέννη που μας κάνει exercises κάθε πρωί. Μετά πάμε για breakfast. Μετά κάνουμε άλλες δουλειές γύρω.
Bring joy is making sure that those people have a good stage of that part of their life, and also reassurance for their family members that they're being looked after, because that's why they come to us, to be looked after.
Εγώ νόμιζα ότι για να έρθω εδώ, για πρώτη φορά στην ιστορία να αλλάξω το σπίτι μου, να έρθω εδώ, λέω πόσο καλά θα είναι, μου λένε αυτό. Πραγματικά όταν ήρθα εδώ και είδα τον κόσμο και ο τρόπος που μας έχουν ποιότητα.
Έχουν τις αξίες τους, από αυτούς μαθαίνεις, από αυτούς όλοι μεγαλώσαμε, οπότε αυτοί διδάσκουνε και εμείς πρέπει να μαθαίνουμε ακόμα.
Είμαι 6 χρόνια, δεν έχω στερηθεί τίποτα από καθαριότητα, από ψώνια, από όλα. Όποια κοπέλα και να στείλουν, είμαι τόσο ευχαριστημένη γιατί μας εξυπηρετούν.
Χίλια ευχαριστώ, διότι είναι καλό το προσφύγο. Σου είπα πριν, και η μάνα μας να ήταν, αδερφάδες μας να ήταν, έτσι δεν θα μας φαινόταν, διότι όλες αυτές έχουν good heart.
I really wanted to play the one that Odysseus did for Valentine's Day. It was so good. Yeah, it's because we do have couples that are in our facilities, and because we have rooms side by side, and there were some really beautiful comments there, particularly from the men. I'll share that. Thank you.
Θα τη φέρουμε την Τζουλ του χρόνου, να τη βάλουμε σε ένα βαλιτσάκι μέσα, θα είναι εντάξει, είναι μικρή. So, thank you everyone, that was really moving. I think when you see the genuine emotion and gratitude of people that are vulnerable and they've never thought about a time when they will need to put their person, their abilities, their ability to look after themselves and their independence in someone else's hand. That's really special when they come back to us and they say, it's a good institution and I enjoy being here. So bravo, well done to both of you. I think you do a remarkable job. So what we'll do now, just to catch up on a little bit of time, instead of doing the Q&A, we'll break up into 2 groups. We'll have the people on my right over here in one group and the people in my left in the second group. Chris, you can look after the people on the right. Jill, you've got the people on the left here. There's a whiteboard we can bring around, and if you like, we can turn our chairs here towards the back, and we can have a little Q&A at the back there, and you guys can come up to the front a little bit and we can mix and match, so we can do your Q&As. It's 3 o'clock, right? Oh, 2 o'clock. The workshop, yeah. So how long? The workshop will go for half an hour. And then we'll have some feedback after that. So all the ideas that come out of it will come back here, and Chris and Jill will facilitate a presentation, or someone from the group will do a presentation of the group's findings, and then we'll share that learning between everyone here. Okay. Θα χωριστούμε σε 2 ομάδες. Η ομάδα στη δεξιά μου μεριά θα είναι με τη Chris Pavlidis. Στην αριστερή μου μεριά θα είναι με τη Jill Taylor. We got the whiteboards at the back. Okay, so if we can take our seats. Okay, if we can take our seats then. Okay, let's take our seats here.
Πόσοι μπορούν να το προσεγγίσουν και πότε μπορούν να το Πόσους γιατρούς παράγει ένα σύστημα, παράγει τόσους που πρέπει για να έχουν όλοι οι πολίτες το σωστό γιατρό εξαιρετικό.
developed region equal gain. That was coming from just listen to people and what they that's
comes out of this through the DI.
So right now the volume from the lectures is going to the stream. The challenge is the diagram speed. The challenge is slow. I've got to see these patients in 60 minutes to do it, because otherwise I've got to be somewhere else doing something else, and there's no one else to do this. So this happens here, that will just hear exactly what the stream.
yeah, but behind the scenes you're like, this is what no, that's not. That does not have the same want to push that. So you're not going to have that. If you want to see what's happening, it's pushing up. So you need the doctors pushing it.
And that's a great question. So it needs to come from the Australian and needs to be directed by government Australian staff. And then you can go and they might be levels of right. So
But I'll be wondering.
Γιατί είναι ένα δύσκολο νοικείο.
Now, the practitioners, the clinics, you'll get a doctor that's the next available doctor. He doesn't want to, he's got all the medical history, and he's focused on the cause. So I find that in health, for example, I find that the outcomes we had back then when we had a general practitioner who was a family doctor, and knew our history, knew our lifestyle, knew us as people, we had better outcomes overall, less medication, and sometimes just through an intelligent discussion. Because he's prepared to spend some time understanding as opposed to just treating the cold sore or the sore foot or the shoulder. So they do need to be incentivized, people to study, people to study, and people to invest in themselves as doctors. They need to be incentivized as they feel they should be incentivized. Money's got to be there. Incentivized. Why would they do it if they wouldn't?
Okay, so moderators, if we can just wind it up now and come for the group debrief. And then subsequent to the debrief, we'll have a lecture from Dr. Patoulis on some of the programs in Greece. So please bring your seats back. Set yourselves up in exactly the same spot you were in before, and we can move on. He's Rove. Oh, it's Wi-Fi. Oh, they can pull it out? No, it's just for them to present their discussion boards. I'll turn it around. Okay, everyone. Testing. Okay, everyone, please take a seat. Okay, so now I'd like to invite Chris. Chris, you can maybe take us through your whiteboard, a little 5-minute summary of what you found and some of the shared learnings, and then we'll have Jill as well.
All right, so...
It can be 7 minutes.
Thank you. Greek and English. So I'll do it in English primarily, okay? So we had a very robust discussion and...
Because it's streaming.
Yes, yes. Oh, okay. So we had a robust discussion in our group. We were fortunate to have a number of very esteemed people who participated and very strong community leaders. There were a number of themes that emerged, and I was really, really pleased and very reassured to hear from the actual practitioners, I'll refer to them as, with their ideas, very concrete ideas about what needs to be done to address the issues that were being discussed as barriers or as access and equity issues for people to be served and, I suppose, cared for in a more efficient and effective manner. So the first thing we talked about, and I think Dr. Marios presented this point, was about the educational aspect of doctors and what education is being provided in order to be more people-oriented. So I think that sits on the premise that a lot of us felt we had certain experiences that weren't favourable or that could certainly be improved in our communication and engagement with doctors, specialists, however we want to refer to them. People have had different experiences saying that they took their parent or they took themselves and they felt that they weren't taken seriously, or that in fact they were responded to in a very rude manner. And it all comes back to ethics. It comes back to the mindset that doctors are educated, you know, they go out into the community, and maybe it's one thing to be educated in black and white. It's a very different thing when you apply it to the human factor and take into account all of the human issues that come to play there. In order to do that, somebody referred to the standards. I can't remember what it was called. What was it, Dr. Morris? The body that does the standards for teaching, the educational standards. Marini? Anyway, there's a body there that needs to address this and needs to review the educational courses that are made available for doctors. That was one theme. The second theme was the lack of funding. And Okirios Yorgos spoke to that very strongly and very clearly, saying that funding as it stands, across the board really, and this is a global issue, I think we'll all agree on that, there's inadequate funding, but very importantly, there's inadequate prioritisation of the issue of health, people's health. So when we look at budgets, whether it's at the local, state or federal level here in Australia, and we look at where health sits, often, you know, there's a lot of room for improvement. And this was testified by again, our esteemed guest here, who spoke very strongly about that, saying that in their experience in Greece, but probably globally, and we certainly see it here, we know that there's a shortage of medicos, and we hear it very regularly, I do lately, that needs to be prioritised in government's funding. So that health is a very important factor, and not looking at only the fiscal, for example, what was that called, the shares or the stock market or etc. The other point that came up was preventative health. And again, how much attention and priority is given to preventative health. And I think we were all we were agreeing that there's not enough preventative measures in place, because again, it goes back to resourcing, it goes back to funding, it goes back to personnel. But it's not a priority. I asked a question, do we feel that it's possible? Is there hope, I guess, for the system to change? Because we're talking about institutionalised systems here that have been operating, in a certain way for a very long time. And we're talking about a profession, again, that's been around for a very, very long time. But again, we've got people here with intense experience and credentials. And you are all saying to us that you feel very hopeful that change can occur and it should occur. So that was another very strong theme. Let's see, what else have we got here? System that promotes equity, yes. Again, Yorgos was talking about health as a priority should not only be available to those people who have the resource base to be able to access it, whether it's about which hospital you access, which doctor you access, and when you access them. So if you have to wait a long time to see a very good doctor, is that okay? Is that acceptable? Well, no. This is the kind of discussion we were having. And I really did find it very refreshing and very inspiring. So communication, Greek-speaking, gender-specific service providers, are there enough? No, there's not. Generally, this is a sector that is dominated, I think, a little bit like politics, by males. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm saying we need to balance it. And when we hear some of the obstacles that people face out in the community, one of them is gender. Do you have a choice about which doctor or specialist you go to see? Often not. Not always, but often not. What else? Regional gaps in GPs, information, gaps, needs, connections. I think anyone else can chip in. Dr. Morris, you were going to say something? Oh, I thought you were going to say something there. I'm just going to turn this around. Yeah, I will. How do I do this? Press it down, please. Yes, yes. So what do we got here? Education for all, preventative health, prevention's better than cure. I think someone said that. Chris, somebody said it. I said new ideas and views, early prevention and access. It's the same thing, equality of health access, because then there's a lot more pressure on the practitioner who the way they will then respond and address the needs of a vulnerable person obviously will be compromised, and therefore that then can translate into a sense of trauma for the practitioner, but also, very importantly, for the vulnerable patient/client. So that all needs to be addressed. These are systemic issues, really, and if the system, as we call it, doesn't prioritise health, these issues are not going to go away. I think that's it. Thanks, Marini.
Thank you, Chris. That was a really nice summary. Thank you. And look, I'll let Jill say a few words now in terms of the summary, and then we might close for this part of the afternoon.
Oh, no, we're going to talk of Mr.
Sorry, yes. After George Patoulis' talk.
We've got drinks upstairs for everyone and some food as well. So the moment we finish here, after George Patoulis, after Jill, of course, and George, we've got drinks on level 12 and some food.
And we'll have drinks on level 12.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill. All right, ours is our much smaller group. We were concentrating specifically on the aged care. So it's in our residential facilities, in care, and also in the home. One thing that we did find is that respite, how respite, the lack of respite and how it works in our, and a lot of people don't know about respite. They think, and particularly the Greek, in our culturally specific environment, they don't understand it. A lot of our generation struggled to put the parents into aged care. So it's sort of like that gap there that's in between caring for them at home and then going into it. Respite, we see, is something that really works, particularly for carers, where they need some time off and they might put their loved ones in care for whether it's a few days or a week or something. It's also a great transition period, transition into aged care. A lot of our elderly also don't want to go into aged care. They think once they're there, that's it, their life's over. So they might go there for a few days or a week and just start transitioning to see. It's actually a lot of fun, and it's a beautiful environment there. So, but the gap in respite is the issue that we have. So there's not enough. We're saying from our perspective, from Dither in particular, we're getting 100% occupancy. So we're using some of our respite beds, so we have to keep them available for if people come in for respite. So it's that there's a huge need at the moment to have that transitional thing. Then process of migration, well, that's the other thing that we were saying with the labour force. Like, we don't have enough people. So that's why you can introduce us to whoever you may have there, particularly skilled workers now, because it's not just the aged care industry, it's the health industry that's really suffering. So to get that in from overseas would be of great value to all of us here. The other thing with the migration process, it's so convoluted, it's costly, it's convoluted, it takes time. For example, we were saying that someone comes into Australia, they can only work 27, 28 hours, I think it was, Bill. Well, you can't live here on 28 hours, so you have to be able to they need to expand it, that needs to be looked at, and that's something that's what we're talking about with the government and trying to reach some sort of agreement there. The other thing, with the opportunities, see, we find that partnerships with Greek-specific partnerships, like we were saying before, the younger generation that's here, that we really welcome to come, was saying they don't know much about Frondida. Frondida they only know from a loved one that's there, whether it's Yaya or Papu, whoever. But we are trying to connect more with that generation, because this is how our organisation is going to evolve, also by getting the younger ones to come in. Our volunteers are very important. They don't do the work of carers, but they assist in anything that needs to be done. And it's actually really rewarding. So if we can get the younger ones to come and volunteer, that's something that will also fill that gap, and there's opportunities there for a lot of that. The other thing is the prevention. There's programs for prevention. Chris, you were saying that before. We're looking at artificial intelligence now. There's a lot, I could go on and on because we're doing a lot in that area, but there is a lot that's going on there. We've got a couple of contracts, grants that we've just got from the government, and I don't think it's been announced, so I better not announce it here, in the area of artificial intelligence in prevention of, be it, for example, spills, falls, which is a major concern with a lot of our elderly. And yeah, I said that one there. I think that's about it. I don't think there's anything else. If anyone wants to say anything, no, done. Thank you.
So that was great. You all came to a community dialogue about in a medical conference. What we saw were the issues were human. And that's the important part of these dialogues and why they need to continue, because we saw that the issues are not related to what becomes a binary government decision, right? It's more diverse than that. It's more multicultural than that. It's more inclusive than that. You need the ethno-specific entities. Up until a few years, the narrative was coming that, hey, you've all grown older, you don't need anything that's too diverse because you've all been assimilated into the greater Australian Parikia. That is a little bit more colourful than it used to. But what we can see today is that there's still a need for us to push, to advocate, not only for our parents, but also for ourselves and our children as they grow and mature, so they can be proud of who they are as Australians. They can advocate for their own health.